Hey, new tricks, new tech and new jaw droppers, Season 2 of our modern C64 game series isn't slowing down. Let's jump right in. Zap Fight 2 Zapped into Oblivion is a frantic vertical shoot-em-up built on enhanced Sook engine. Sook as in shoot-em-up creation kit. The plot is classic shoot-em-up stuff. The alien empire of the planet Extro is attacking Earth again, and you, as per usual the lone pilot of the Zap Fighter, are the only thing standing between humanity and total obliteration. In this sequel, the Extro forces return with a larger, more coordinated invasion fleet, giving the whole setup a slightly more all-or-nothing tone than the original. And since you're used to saving us from the brink of extinction, that's exactly what you're going to do once more. Zap Fight 2 is all about speed, power-ups and screen-melting chaos. You collect upgrades like faster shots, drones and special weapons, and the game constantly pushes you to stay aggressive. It's fun today because it feels like a lost arcade board that somehow ended up on the C64, so you know, with smooth scrolling, punchy SID music and a difficulty curve that keeps you wide awake. Expendable Army is a military-themed, if that wasn't obvious by the title already, run-and-gun shooter. You play as lone soldier, drop behind enemy lines to take out an entire hostile army, because apparently no one else was stupid enough to even try. Or maybe it was public holiday of some sorts, hard to tell. The point is that you're alone and there's a whole army worth of bodies armed to the teeth to put down. The game frames your mission as a desperate last-ditch operation where command basically shrugs and sends you in because you're the only one reckless enough to try. Expendable Army is a top-down shooter with lots of enemies, explosions and that classic one soldier versus the world vibe. You move through bases, forests and enemy camps, blasting everything that moves. It's fun because it's pure arcade energy. No filler, no overly long stories, everything's distilled down to just action. It's part of the Shoot-em-up Destruction Set 4, a compilation of enhanced Sook games that push the engine further than anyone expected. For Django, as you can probably guess by the title, is a Western-themed platform shooter by Tero Heikkinen. The original 2016 release featured a single fort, while version 1.1 expands the game with a second area and various refinements for even more cowboy action. You play a lone gunslinger infiltrating a bandit-controlled fort to clean out the outlaws and reclaim the territory. The game frames your mission as a high-risk raid where grabbing as much loot as possible before escaping becomes part of the challenge. For Django is a side-view run-and-gun with large sprites, focusing on clean Petsky-inspired backgrounds and smooth animation, and enemies that crouch, shoot and behave more dynamically than in many classic C64 shooters. It feels like a polished Amiga-style Western remake, offering tight controls, great atmosphere and a surprising amount of detail. It's worth mentioning that the entire game, code, graphics and music, was created by one person, which is a feat that we don't often see these days. Well, at least on PC. Galaxy is Jason Aldred's award-winning Galaga-inspired shooter. The story is rather unique. Humanity ignored the decline of the bee population and now their alien guardian bees have arrived to restore the balance. Yep, I shit you not, the bee gods are coming. Anyway, you pilot the 1981 model Galancia fighter spacecraft to stop the invasion before Earth becomes one giant honeycomb. Galancia is a single-screen arcade shooter with enemies coming in waves and formations, boss fights and buttery-smooth controls. So you know, what some of us love the most. It's a fun game because it feels like a premium commercial release. It features very polished graphics, great sound and tons of replayability. In fact, it won Reset 64's 2017 Commodore 64 Game of the Year and later on even got a 2018 Steam release. Gunfight is a full C64 conversion of Ultimate Playtech Games' ZX Spectrum Classic ported by Rode and Emu. You're a sheriff quick draw, tasked with cleaning up the town of Black Rock by hunting down wanted outlaws. The governor's telegram warns you that the whole wave of gun-toting troublemakers is heading straight for town, so you're basically the last line of defense before Black Rock turns into a smoking crater. Gunfight is an isometric action-adventure where you explore the town, duel bandits and collect bounties, which is every wannabe cowboy's wet dream. Are there even wannabe cowboys these days? Are westerns still a thing? If you know, drop me a line in the comments below. While the game is very ZX Spectrum-like in its presentation, it's still fun because it's fast, smooth and faithful to the original. Luftrausers with a Z is an official C64 remake of Vlambeer's 2014 indie PC hit Luftrausers, developed by Paul Keller and published by RGCD and Vlambeer. You're a pilot flying a customizable Rouser aircraft, taking on endless waves of enemy fighters, bots and aces. Not like one from your sleeve, more like one behind the steering stick of an opposing craft. Although I'm not saying that he may not be carrying a deck of cards. You just never know. Luftrausers is a 360-degree air combat shooter with thrust-based movement, combos and over 125 combinations of weapons, bodies and propulsion systems. It's a blast because it runs at a wildly smooth framerate with fluid scrolling. Something that's while not impossible, it's absolutely not guaranteed in some of these more ambitious 8-bit games. Planet Golf is Antonio Savona's sci-fi golf adventure. But wait, there's a story. 36,940 years after Alan Shepard hit a golf ball on the moon, humanity now plays golf across the entire solar system. Because of course we do, and you're the fresh challenger. Planet Golf is a physics-driven 2D golf game with 99 holes across 5 planets, each with unique gravity and hazards. It's known for being as addictive as it is difficult. And believe you me, it is difficult. So while we've established that it's challenging already, it's also stylish and surprisingly deep, feeling more like a galactic puzzle golf than your typical sports simulation. Oh, and it actually features digitized speech and cinematic intro, which is rare for modern C64 games. Planet Worlds is a 64KB expansion of the original 16KB Platman created by Andrea Shincaglia and published by Cytronic. Platman travels through 4 themed worlds: Classic, Gothic, Ancient and Future, eating everything in sight and avoiding roaming bodies, spikes, water hazards and other traps. Sounds simple, and it really is. But most importantly, it's also fun, and you can't really expect much more from a video game, now can you? Platman Worlds is a single-screen-based platformer where you collect keys, unlock doors, eat goodies, and chomp enemies after grabbing power pills. It's fun because it's a charming Pac-Man meets platformer hybrid with tons of screens and personality. Quack is a C64 fan-made remake of the Amiga classic created by Daniel Hotop with graphics and music by Saul Cross. You play a heroic duck, navigating levels filled with enemies, traps and collectibles. Your goal in each stage is to gather keys, unlock exits and survive long enough to escape increasingly chaotic fortresses you've waddled into. Quack is a fast, colorful single-screen platformer where you collect keys, grab fruit, defeat enemies and race against falling spikes. It's a fun game because it's pure arcade joy, with its tight controls, bright visuals and tons of levels. Interestingly enough, the creator of the original Amiga version, Jamie Woodhouse, actually approved of the C64 remake, so it's 100% legit. Rescuing Orc is a platform adventure by Juan J. Martinez, whom you may know as the creator of Night Night we've covered a few videos back. You're a goblin whose best friend, Orc, has gone missing, so you must travel through forests, mountains and dungeons to find and rescue your friend. The journey takes you across 5 distinct regions of the world Magicka, each hiding clues about what really happened to the Orc. Rescuing Orc is a jump-and-slash platformer with tight controls, varied environments and a charming fantasy world. It feels like a polished, late C64 era commercial release, so smooth, atmospheric and satisfying. It's worth mentioning that the ending teases a sequel that we've still yet to see. First up, we're hopping into the cockpit with Super Silverfish. Despite the hip title, this isn't your typical sci-fi epic. It puts you in the seat of a military helicopter tearing across a sprawling hostile landscape. You're tracking down a giant offensive weapon built by an evil faction, blasting through 5 regions to stop it. It's light on the deep lore, but heavy on that get to the chopper energy and pure arcade aggression. Super Silverfish is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that feels incredibly fluid. What's wild here is that it was built using shoot-'em-up creation kit Redux, the enhanced 2016 version of the software, with extra coding from Martin Piper and Richard Bayliss, while Alf Ingve handled the design and graphics. And I'm sure you know all 3 by now from my videos or their amazing games. The power-up system is generous enough to make you feel like an airborne tank, and the real technical flex is how they sidestep the usual shoot-'em-up creation kit junk to deliver something smooth, fast and properly arcade-grade. Imagine being a guy named Splorf. That's nearly as bad as being named Fart, or Snort, or Shart. You get the gist. Anyway, Splorf is a Space Corporation sanitation engineer, 5th class, who gets yanked into an emergency mission after the Doom's system defense grid goes completely off the rails. And I know that it's a lot to take, but you'll soon understand. Your only goal is survival as you jetpack through a deadly stretch of malfunctioning defense corridors, avoiding alien flora and jagged rocks, while your jetpack decides to be your worst enemy. Spaceman Splorf Planet of Doom is a masterclass in one-button gaming because the momentum physics are much deeper and the hitboxes are pixel perfect. It's addicting because the reset is instantaneous, keeping that just one more try loop spinning perpetually, or until you give up. Beautiful graphics and multi-track soundtrack give the whole thing a surprisingly polished, almost cinematic vibe, making our little space hero feel like a much bigger space superhero. Oh my god, that makes no sense. Ignore me. Next we've got a platformer with a very relatable problem. The bare essentials. Get it? Do you? Everyone does. Anyway, you play as a bear who, let's be honest, slackened off during the summer and now Miss Bear is furious and you've been kicked out of the cave to find exactly 326 apples scattered across an interconnected world of around 60 screens to prepare for winter. What a mission! The bare essentials plays like a dream. The jumping mechanics are some of the tightest on the system, which is quite crucial because some of the late game screens are rather demanding. The game feels unique because the world is interconnected, giving it a slight exploration feel without being overwhelming at the same time. If you want something that feels like a lost arcade cabinet, look no further, I got you. Dark Destroyer 2117RX. Just rolls off the tongue, don't it? Anyway, he plays the courageous commander of a pair of defense drones protecting Earth from a hostile alien planet hurtling straight towards us, known simply as the Destroyer. The game is a classic 80s sci-fi shooter premise with a 21st century coat of paint. So, fun. Yeah, fun is the word I was looking for. Dark Destroyer 2117RX is a vertical Suk shooter, so another of those shoot-em-up creation kit games. The RX in the title marks the 2017 Enhanced Edition released by the New Dimension, tightening up the action and adding extra polish. The most fun, and arguably the challenge too, comes from the massive boss battles. These things can take a huge chunk of the screen and require real pattern recognition to beat. The game is actually a remake of a 1986 Commodore 16 title, proving that even the C64's smaller siblings had great ideas worth upgrading for the beige doorstop. Alright, let's get to the ultimate C64 party game, and no, I'm not talking about Mule or Dyna Blaster. Shotgun has zero plot, but you don't need a story when you have 3 friends on a couch and a screen full of bullets. Actually, when you have 3 friends, you have more than I, so that's already a win in my books. Shotgun is a 4-player deathmatch arena where the only goal is to be the last person standing in a tiny single-screen battlefield. The brilliance here is the ammo system. You have a shotgun, but you only have 1 shell, and once you fire, you're defenseless and have to scramble to pick up a new shell that spawns randomly in the arena. It's pure chaotic fun, because it turns every match into a hilarious game of chicken. To play with 4 people, you actually need a classic Games for Player interface, or the SuperPad 64 adapter, making Shotgun one of the very few modern games that fully utilizes the hardware. Prepare for some weirdness in Coordinate Exit 2M, talking about the titles that just roll off the tongue. You play as Zampo the pig, and all the toilets on the planet Sunyo have mysteriously been turned into hundreds of potties and scattered everywhere. And that's evil because toilets are one of the 4 universal human rights, the others being the running water, electricity and internet. Note that down. You have to help the witch cottagina recover the toilets by eating everything in sight and finding the exit. See, I told you it was weird. Don't let the potty humor fool you though, this is a technical masterpiece. It runs at a silky frame rate with sub-pixel scrolling that is so smooth it looks like an early Sega Genesis game. It's fun because it's a high-speed, dashing platformer that rewards momentum. Interestingly enough, the title is actually in Latin and stands for whatever goes in, comes out, which perfectly summarizes Zampo's digestive-based adventure. Oh, and whomever guesses what 16-bit game the music in the footage comes from wins 1000 respect points. And yeah, they're worth pretty much nothing. In Pickle Spot Patrol, you're playing as a pickle, a strange little creature who has lost his marbles in a series of dangerous woodland-themed single-screen locations. You've got to navigate these levels to find and take the podlets home while avoiding or spitting at hostile wildlife that wants to ruin your, well, I suppose patrol. The game uses a rescue and return mechanic similar to Flicker, but with much more emphasis on navigating tight spaces. It's fun because of the sheer charm of the sprites and the bouncy melodic soundtrack. An interesting fact that not many people know is that the game originally debuted in the 16KB cartridge competition, meaning that the developers crammed all that music, color and gameplay into a tiny fraction of the C64's already limited memory. I think it's high time for some martial arts mayhem, or low time for some powerful uppercuts. Potato tomato. Tiger Claw is a love letter to the classic Bruce Lee game on the C64. You play as a warrior tasked with infiltrating a mountain fortress to recover 4 mystic scrolls stolen by 3 Lords of Evil: Fire Fist, Thunder Chain and Angry Tongue. Very confusing names if you ask me. Master Lee managed to channel some of the scroll's power into 4 masks before they were taken, giving you a fighting chance as you climb deeper into the fortress. This is actually what we call a Metroidvania light-like game. You start with just a couple of basic moves, but as you find the scrolls, you gain new abilities, like the double jump for instance, that let you access new areas on the map. It feels amazing to play because the combat is snappy and the exploration feels meaningful. Fun fact, the game features a speedrun mode built-in, acknowledging just how much the modern community loves to optimize their play sessions. Meet Barnsley. He's a badger with a gambling problem and a lot of debt. After hearing rumors of the lost treasure of Tutankhamun, so an ancient badger that amassed an incredible fortune buried in a local graveyard, he decides to go on a late-night treasure hunt after overhearing the story in his local pub, hoping to pay off the bookies. A story as old as life. Barnsley Badger is a massive flip-screen platformer with around 100 screens to explore. It's heavily inspired by Monty Mall games, but with much more modern, fair-level design. It's fun because of the cheeky British humor and the sheer variety of the enemy types you encounter. Interestingly, this game was actually born as a reward for Kickstarter tied to a book, The Story of Commodore 64 in Pixels, showing how the community literally builds the games they want to see. It's time to crawl through something a little darker. Your mama's bedroom. Ugh, no, scratch that, I meant Argus. Argus the game. Argus is a first-person dungeon crawler on the C64, which already makes it a standout because the system wasn't exactly drowning in grid-based RPGs. You play as Foran, son of Phryne, the only warrior brave or foolish enough to take on Zoran, a priest waiting in the Temple of Lies for his chance to free the Legion of Evil from the pit. With the Starchild kidnapped and the land in peril, you set off across 1500 individual locations of forests, caves, temples and labyrinths to bring them back and stop the darkness from spreading. Argus is a pseudo 3D crawler with smooth screen-to-screen transitions rather than real-time 3D movement. There is no stat grinding or leveling, this is more of an exploration-heavy adventure than a traditional RPG. The fun comes from navigating the maze-like overworld, collecting keys, weapons and artifacts, and figuring out how all the regions connect. The presentation is gorgeous thanks to Trevor Story's artwork, and Soulcross's atmospheric soundtrack gives the whole journey a moody, almost Amiga-like vibe. It's a long, surprisingly deep quest that proves the C64 can absolutely pull off a dungeon crawler when the right team is behind it. Aviator Arcade 2 is all about full-scale urban warfare. I mean, a terrorist group called the X-Force, yes, like the offshoot of the X-Men, it's a coincidence, let it slide, has occupied the city of Suburbia, and as the top pilot for the Air Defense Force, you're sent in with a state-of-the-art attack helicopter to clean house. It's a classic military seek and destroy mission with a surprisingly sinister plot twist waiting in the later stages. I would also like to add here, and forgive me as it's a complete off-topic, that Suburbia is also a fantastic board game for up to 4 players and you should check it out too. Not a sponsor. Aviator Arcade 2 is a high-octane vertical shoot-em-up that runs at silky smooth frame rates, and gameplay-wise it feels more like a late-era arcade cabinet than an 8-bit home computer game. You'll weave through bullet hell, manage weapon and shield power-ups, and take on massive, screen-filling bosses. It's tight, responsive and incredibly polished, just the best kind of fun. In Darkness from 2014, you play as Stan, an adventurer who survives a plane crash in the African jungle only to find his girlfriend Megan has been snatched by unseen forces. Which is terrible. Unless you're in an unhappy relationship, then take your other half to the African jungle. Problem solved. You're welcome. Darkness is a race against the shadows across a massive 100-screen jungle map to get Megan back before the jungle swallows you both whole. Spooky. Darkness feels a bit like a mashup of Saberwolf and Zelda-style exploration, but with a darker, more atmospheric vibe. It's a top-down action-adventure where exploration is the name of the game. You start with just a basic ranged weapon and have to find keys and health upgrades to survive and complete your mission. The flip-screen navigation and light puzzle-solving elements make it feel like a grand epic quest that pushes the C64 storytelling to its absolute limits. In Space Trip 2086, you play as courageous Captain Steve Zappa, and you're tasked with a dangerous job, infiltrating a fleet of massive transport ships that have been hijacked by hostile aliens. So it means that you aren't just flying past them, you have to get inside and cleanse the ships to reclaim the tech. A mission and a half, if you ask me. Space Trip 2086 isn't your typical side-scroller. It's a strategic action platformer where you explore the interiors of an alien-occupied ship, blast hostile creatures and access vital systems using credit cards to hack terminals. The real charm comes from how you navigate each vessel, raiding elevators, unlocking new sections and boosting your charged laser shots to stay alive. It's a clever, thoughtful sci-fi adventure, and if you're into platformers with a bit of brains behind the blaster, you're going to love it. Forget the humans, the real threat lives in the pantry. In this 4KB masterpiece, the Goblin Town potato cellars have been overrun by giant berserker potato bugs, and you've been volunteered by Overseer Snorgle to dive into the cellar and salvage as many spots as possible before the bugs eat the town's entire winter supply. Yep, you've heard that right, you've been picked as a volunteer. Terrible, just terrible. I feel for you, man. Also watch out for bats, they're down there too. Goblins is a tight single-screen platformer where speed and precision are everything. You have to navigate the cellar's platforms, grab the potatoes and dodge the bugs and bats. It's simple, incredibly addictive and a testament to what the developers can do with just 4 KB of code if they're incredibly talented. In Hessian you play as Kim, a low-security guard at a high-tech science complex. After a disastrous accident, Kim is saved by experimental cybernetic surgery that gives her superhuman strength, effectively turning her into an 8-bit superhero. But with great power comes great responsibility. And in this particular case, it's not only the drive to save others but also yourself, as your body constantly needs energy cells. So now, not only you have to fight your way through a facility gone mad to stop the megalomaniacal Dr. Norman Thorne, but also keep your internal systems powered. Hessian is a definitive C64 Metroidvania. If you dive into it, you're in for a lot of fun because Hessian features a multi-directional scrolling, weapon upgrades and huge non-linear world to explore. The combat is tactical too, so you can roll to dodge bullets and perform stealthy takedowns. The atmosphere is as thick as my accent and the sense of progression is genuinely rewarding, kinda like hitting those like and hype buttons below this video. Molly Snake Space is a truly unique game. I mean, take a classic Snake formula, fling it into outer space and then forget everything you thought you knew about snakes. Because here you play as Dina, a tiny worm astronaut sprinting and hopping across Tibli, a giant cosmic serpent who won't stop wriggling beneath her. Your job is to catch falling goodies. It's weird, it's charming, and it's exactly the kind of delightful chaos only the C64 homebrew scene could dream up. Molly Snake Space is a deceptively simple but charming single-screen arcade game. You leap around Tibli, the giant space snake, catching objects that fall from above before they smack into his poor scaly back. Each item has a different score value, and missing one chips away at Tibli's health, and when you lose all 3 hearts, it's game over. Grab the falling heart though, and you patch him right up. As time goes on, Tibli gets more restless, wriggling faster and making your footing a whole lot trickier. It's frantic, funny and surprisingly tense, the kind of 4 KB chaos that keeps you saying one more go long after you should have gone to bed.
Get ready.
In Rocket Smash X, you're a space pilot with a serious case of bad luck. I have that with jobs. Never had one I'd be happy with. Anyway, you've crashed on a hostile planet and your rocket is in pieces. I mean, it was implied in the crashed part, but you know, it had to be said aloud too. So now you need to gather the parts, refuel the tank, and get off the rock before your oxygen runs out or the local aliens turn you into a snack. Oh, and meteors, lots of meteors, will also try to flatten you. Rocket Smash X is deeply inspired by the ultimate play the game's jetpack, and it's arcade action at its finest. The X version adds meteor showers, new enemy types, and a full 64KB expanded build. The jetpack physics are incredibly satisfying too, making the frantic scramble for parts feel like a high-stakes ballet between countless deadly enemies. Don't let the name fool you, Icicle Race is actually a heated situation. You're navigating a frozen environment where you must douse dangerous flames with sliding ice cubes to clear the path. There's no Santa here, just pure logic-driven survival and hella addicting fun. Icicle Race is a brilliant ice-sliding Sokoban-style puzzle game. You have to push blocks of ice onto fires to extinguish them. One wrong move and you'll block your own path or melt your resources. It's a think before you move kind of a game with a fantastic soul-course character animation and a brain-teasing difficulty curve that will keep you hooked for hours on end. Conga 4096 is what happens when someone looks at the 4 kilobyte coding limit and says, sure, but what if we also made it stylish? You play as a tiny ship, whipping around the screen at breakneck speed, dragging behind you a deadly trail of bullets, like a cosmic conga line of destruction. And you have to steer that tail into the enemies, avoiding the ones that can be killed and try not to slam into your own bullet snake in the process. It's fast, it's frantic, and it's the kind of arcade chaos that makes you question how on earth this fits into 4 kilobytes. Conga 4096 is a pure arcade score chaser, built around one brilliant mechanic. Your bullets don't fire forward, they trail behind you. Every turn you make becomes a weapon, every dodge becomes a setup, and every enemy becomes a puzzle of timing and trajectory. Some foes can be shredded by a conga tail, while others, the glowing pluses, are completely invulnerable, forcing you to weave through the chaos with pixel-perfect precision. The controls are buttery smooth, the movement is hypnotic, and the whole thing feels like a minimalist dance of survival. It's the kind of a game where you die, blink, and immediately restart it before your brain catches up. And finally, we're at the mystery game of the video and the true impossible release on the C64 by Mr. Piotr Kuska and Kamil Wolniakowski, straight from Poland. Grey is an unthinkable technical marvel, a 3D first-person shooter set in a bleak, atmospheric world. The duo is wildly known in the C64 scene under their handles, Piotr and Jammer64, and this project is very much their love letter to the early PC shooters. You wake up in a desaturated, oppressive environment and navigate a maze of corridors and hostile shapes while uncovering the nature of the Grey anomaly, a tone and setting explicitly inspired by Wolfenstein 3D and Doom-era aesthetics. Using a custom, raycasting engine similar to Wolfenstein 3D, this game does things the C64 was never supposed to. The engine cleverly abuses the C64's color map refresh tricks to avoid redrawing the whole screen, which is how it reaches its absurd performance. In fact, no 8-bit system ever should be able to do what Grey does. Heck, even most 16-bit systems couldn't, at least not at this speed. It reportedly hits around 16 FPS on a stock, unexpanded C64, which is something seemingly impossible by 1982 standards. It's a fast-paced FPS with real-time 3D exploration and combat. Seeing this run on a stock 1982 machine is a jaw-dropping experience that proves the C64 scene has plenty of surprises left and that the modern coders are still finding new ways to bend this hardware into shapes Jack Tamriel never intended. And you can bet your sweet ass that I'll be here delivering these surprises for as long as you'll be curious to watch my videos. Super Breadbox isn't just a remake, it's a full-blown industrial-grade panic simulator disguised as an 8-bit arcade game. You're dropped into a tiny arena where monsters pour in like someone left the dimensional door half open during lunch break. There's no lore, no cutscenes, no cosmic prophecy, just you, a pile of randomly appearing crates, and a universe that clearly wants you gone. Every weapon crate you grab rewires reality for a split second, swapping your firepower for something else to keep the chaos at bay. It's pure distilled action, no story required when the gameplay itself feels like a crisis-level event. The mechanics of Super Breadbox are pure genius. Your score isn't based on how many enemies you kill, but on how many weapon crates you collect. Every time you grab a crate, your weapon randomly swaps. You might go from a powerful bazooka to a tricky disc gun in a split second, forcing you to adapt your strategy instantly. It's arguably the most polished and addictive arcade experience on the system, and one of the best examples of how modern games on retro systems can be low-key better than many classics. Power Glove is set in a future where humanity has exhausted all fossil fuels and we rely on two massive subterranean thermal reactors at the poles. When the northern reactor explodes, cutting off the world's power and turning maintenance droids into killers, you're sent in to deal with it. Armed with a high-tech shielded suit and the titular Power Glove, you must recover 5 control diamonds to reboot the system before the world freezes. Power Glove is a Metroidvania light that favors exploration and precision. You'll navigate a massive facility, fighting baddies and avoiding traps, and finding suit upgrades like rocket boots to access new areas. The mechanics feel fair, even if not easy. The flick screen stages and tight collision detection mean that if you fail a jump, it's on you, not the game. The animations are silky smooth and the graphics are charming and atmospheric. It's a deep and well-played mission that rewards players who take their time. The world is ending. Yeah, like right now, so you don't have time to ask why. You play as an unnamed man in a suit, a salaryman, those who know, leaping from the window of a collapsing skyscraper while mysterious forces tear the city apart in the background. The story is told entirely through gameplay and atmosphere. The crumbling grey skyline and the desperate sense of speed tell you everything you need to know. Just keep running, never look behind, and hope for the best. As the official remake that helped popularize the endless runner genre, C64 Cannibal's mechanics are beautifully simple. It's a one-button game where you control the jump. That's it, you've no control of anything else. What's the catch, you may wonder? You constantly gain speed. You'll crash through windows, dodge falling debris, and try not to trip over office furniture. And because the levels are procedurally generated using algorithms based on the original's game source code, no two escapes are ever the same. It's time for the ultimate livestock showdown, sheep versus goats in Sheepoid DX. Planet Earth is under siege by the space goats. To save humanity from our new goat overlords, you command 2 specialized Sheepoid units sent deep into the heart of a giant alien mothership. It's a psychedelic high-stakes battle for the fate of the farm, and by extension of that, perhaps even the entire world. Sheepoid DX is an enhanced, graphically overhauled version of the original 2011 release. Sheepoid DX is a mental workout masquerading as a simple shooter. You control 2 sheep simultaneously on dual axis, one moves horizontally, the other vertically, and you have to split your brain, so to speak, to defend both paths from waves of bizarre alien creatures. The DX polish brings new art by Trevor Story, reworked presentation, and a pumping synth soundtrack that makes the frantic dual control mechanics feel like an 8-bit fever dream worth having. Tutti Frutti 64 is a vibrant remake of a classic and an unofficial C64 conversion of the 1985 platform game Tutti Frutti by Mastertronic that stars a cute and really red super strawberry. Your mission is to collect all the fruit in the orchard while avoiding the evil Sour Apple Gang. Not an official name, mind you, but it kinda fits. Tutti Frutti 64 feels like a Saturday morning cartoon brought to life with a classic C64 color palette. Are there even Saturday morning cartoons still running? I mean, my TV is my screen for streaming and I have no access to cable, satellite or landline, so I have no way of knowing. If you do though, let me know in the comments below. Tutti Frutti 64 is a brilliant mashup of Mr. Do and Pango. You'll dig too much to collect cherries, but you can also push blocks to crush the evil apples chasing you. The digging and block pushing mechanics come directly from the original 1985 design, but the C64 version adds new graphics plus a catchy SID soundtrack. The variety is the big draw here. The mechanics shift from tactical digging to physics-based block pushing, keeping the fruit collection action juicy fresh across every level. There is no plot, only the hexagon. Micro-hexagon. Also there is no spoon, but that we've known since 1999. You are a small dot trapped in a collapsing world of geometric shapes and stroboscopic lights. It's a battle of pure human reflexes against a relentless pulsing machine rhythm, complete with the flashing light warning the game is known for. Micro-hexagon is a Commodore 64 reinterpretation of the legendary Super Hexagon. It's a minimal action game that pushes the C64 to its limits despite fitting into a 16KB cartridge for the RGCD 2013 competition where it actually placed second. You simply rotate the dot to avoid incoming walls. The screen spins, the colors flash and the speed increases until your brain melts, or until you fail. Potato tomato. It's brutally difficult, but the light-fasting restarts and addicting gameplay make it the ultimate chase the high score experience with a fantastic SID soundtrack. Pixel City Skater drops you into an endless stretch of 8-bit concrete where the story isn't told through cutscenes, but through motion. You're a lone skater, carving way through a looping, obstacle-packed cityscape, chasing flow and rhythm as the world moves relentlessly forward. Well, not really moves most, as it's a flick-screen game, but I wanted to be a bit poetic here, you know, for shits and giggles. There's no villain in Pixel City Skater, no grand conspiracy, just you, your board and the urban gauntlet ahead. Every curb, barrier and gap becomes part of personal quest for mastery, turning the city itself into a kind of minimalist narrative. Keep moving, keep improving, and make the asphalt your canvas. Pixel City Skater is a precision-based platformer. The mechanics are distilled into a single button for jumping, but the level design is deviously clever. You have to time your ollies perfectly to clear gaps and obstacles. Because the game resets the moment you hit a wall, you'll find yourself in a zen state, memorizing the rhythm of the city until you nail the perfect run. An evil witch has held the citizens of Dougal City hostage using radioactive weather balloons. For more than 13 years, she's controlled the atmosphere by freezing the clouds into stone-hard ice, preventing anyone from reaching the balloons. Only Captain Cloudberry, a stunt pilot called in by desperate villagers, is capable of maneuvering around the frozen clouds and saving the day. It's a whimsical rescue mission where you have to pop the balloons and clear the skies. Not against the timer, but while avoiding hazards and managing your limited fuel. Captain Cloudberry Episode 4 Helium is the ultimate test of one-button flight. You hold the fire button to turn and release it to fly straight. But here's the twist. Hitting a thundercloud strikes you with lightning and reverses your turning direction. Navigating stone-hard frozen clouds while managing a shrinking fuel bar makes this one of the most unique and challenging flight games on the system. Captain Cloudberry was released as a part of the Single Button Games collection by Megastyle. In Xeno Rogue, a brand new 2025 release, you play as Xeno, an alien explorer sent to the planet Delabur Tainter. Yep, a name some of us, me, will probably never manage to pronounce correctly. Your mission is to recover 20 sacred relics, each hidden on one of the planet's 20 levels stolen by intergalactic predators. You're not alone, however. The planet is guarded by the Barter Stern, another of those tongue-twister names. Deadly warriors tasked with protecting the relics, and they will track you through every floor of the shifting alien maze. Developed for the 7-day roguelike challenge, Xeno Rogue is a rare 8-bit treat. It uses a procedural generation system, meaning every playthrough features a completely different map and new challenges. It's turn-based and grid-based, requiring Gen 1 strategy. So the kind of a game some of us love the most. You have to manage your movement carefully to outsmart the hunters, making it feel like a modern indie strategy game trapped inside a 9.8 KB stain-covered, chipped at the corner 9082 computer cartridge. Finally, we have the ultimate 8-bit showdown. In Bomberland, you must guide your hero through incendiary 36-arena single-player campaign to confront the nefarious Lord Bomber in his castle. Along the way, you'll traverse factories, swamps, snowy regions and other themed zones, fighting dozens of enemy types in an epic quest to restore peace to the land. Or so the story tells, because you can also play it with friends. Bomberland is effectively the most feature-packed bomber-style game ever released on the C64. The mechanics are flawless. Drop bombs, collect power-ups like remote detonators, extra blast and flame extensions, and clear the screen, all while having a lot of fun. But the real cherry on top of it all was its support for up to 5-player simultaneous battles using Protovision's CGA or Hit user port adapters. With a massive single-player campaign, post-battles and password saves, this is a true AAA title for the Commodore 64 and one game worth firing up if you have C64 loving buddies coming over. Also drinks, you can fire those off too. First up, let's blast off into the Centaurus galaxy with Space Lord Centaurus. Released by RGCD in 2012, this isn't just a simple arcade port. Believe it or not, but 4 powerful Space Lords are locked in celestial battle for galactic supremacy. Each Lord controls a fortified space station on the edge of the massive spiral nebula, and they've decided that the best way to settle their cosmic beef is, well, basically a high-stakes game of cosmic ping-pong. Mechanically, Space Lords is a brilliant evolution of the classic game Warlords. You use a paddle to deflect a ball, or balls, into your opponent's bases while protecting your own. What makes this special is the support for the 4-player user port adapter, so if you manage to get some friends over, it becomes a pure chaotic bliss unlike anything else. It features silky smooth sprites and pulsing soundtrack that perfectly captures that one more go arcade energy. Next, we're descending into the depths with Fairy Well. In this charming action-adventure you play as a brave little fairy exploring a series of randomly generated underground caverns. Your mission? To rescue 4 captured princesses from the Dark Wizard of the Underground and survive. Yep, I believe that the survival part is kinda important too. The game has a distinct Night and Grey vibe, which makes sense because it's from the same talented creator, Mikael Tillander. The gameplay is all about flight and navigation. You have to float through tight corridors, collect keys and find the exit to the next level of the well. It's a 16KB masterpiece, quite literally too, as it won the 2011 RGCD 16KB cartridge competition. The fun comes from the physics of your movement and the surprisingly deep combat as you zap enemies with your fairy dust. It's proof that big adventures can come in tiny 16KB packages and lose no fun because of the constraints. Now prepare for something a bit darker. Soulless is an atmospheric action exploration epic. You play as a king who has been betrayed and transformed into a monstrous, soulless beast. His curse binds him to the depths, where ancient machines and forgotten guardians still obey the will of the usurper who stole his throne. To regain your humanity and your throne, you must traverse a sprawling underground labyrinth to find your scattered soulstones. The story is heavy on myth and mood, brought to life with some of the most detailed pixel art ever seen on the C64. Mechanically, Soulless feels kinda like Metroid meets Impossible Mission. It's non-linear, meaning you'll be searching rooms, dodging deadly traps, solving environmental puzzles and sometimes even backtracking. What makes it interesting is the lack of traditional combat. You are fragile and must rely on timing and exploration. The haunting presentation and synth tune create an atmosphere so thick you could cut it with a joystick. If Soulless was too quiet for you, Guns N' Ghosts is here to wake the neighbors. Or your wife/girlfriend. Or your toddler. Or all of them at once. You control Trevor and Georg, two paranormal investigators who aren't afraid of no ghosts. Their latest case leads them into a sprawling haunted manor where restless spirits have started spilling into the nearby countryside. So they decide to deal with the plasmatic invaders with proverbial heavy artillery. Guns N' Ghosts is a love letter to classic single-screen action platformers like Bubble Bobble, but with a lot more gunpowder. Guns N' Ghosts is fast-paced arcade-style shooting at its finest. You clear waves of ghosts, ghouls and other monstrosities across multiple teamed worlds while having a lot of fun. The mechanics are simple: shoot, jump, grab power-ups and don't die. Especially don't die. The real fun though is the two-player co-op mode, because coordinating with a buddy to cover different platforms while the screen fills with spectral enemies is an absolute blast and gives the game an extra layer of tactics. It's frantic, funny and incredibly polished, and you should give it a go. Time for something much lighter and also wonderfully weird. Flubble and Squitch stars two adorable blob-like creatures in a surreal world filled with weird aliens and strange platforms. There isn't a deep save-the-world princess or universe plot here, it's more about the journey of a friendly dragon Flubble who aims to save all the squidges from the evil aliens across increasingly difficult levels. The game has a visual style that feels like a cross between Nebulous and 90s cartoon, and I find it to be rather charming. Flubble and Squitch is a pure, precision-demanding platformer. You'll be timing jumps and navigating platforms that would make Mario sweat, and munching on magic mushrooms that can help or hinder you, depending on which you eat. Each stage introduces new hazards or movement patterns, forcing you to constantly adjust your rhythm and approach. What makes it fun is the level design. It starts easy, but soon becomes tricky, feeding you that one more try loop. Don't let the title fool you, you may actually lose it, and it's a serious piece of homebrew. Originally a PC indie hit, You Have to Win the Game was ported to C64 by Kabuto. The plot is meta. You are exploring a digital world that looks exactly like a 1980s CGA PC game. And I have to say that C64's palette is perfect for that. It's a celebration of the era of exploration platformers where the goal is simply to see everything and, as the title suggests, win the game. Whether you succeed and do it, however, is entirely up to you. You Have to Win the Game is a Metroidvania light where you explore a large interconnected map. Mechanically, it's all about precise movement and finding upgrades that allow you to reach new areas. The C64 port is a technical marvel because it perfectly mimics the look of a totally different computer architecture while retaining that smooth C64 scrolling and crisp presentation. It's a must-play for fans of VVV or Impossible Mission. Buckle up, because the Vice Squad is taking us to the neon-soaked streets of a crime-ridden city. You play as a hard-boiled Captain James Hatch on a mission to take down El Guato, a ruthless Mexican drug baron who's moving in on your turf. It's essentially Miami Vice meets Spy Hunter, and it's every bit as cool as that sounds. I mean, just look at it and tell me, don't you wanna play it? The Vice Squad is a top-down driving shooter. You tear down crowded highways at high speed, dodging civilian cars while blasting hostile vehicles off the road. The difficulty ramps up steadily as new enemy types and tougher patterns appear, and the scrolling is impressively fast and smooth for a C64 title. It's high-octane, stylish, action-packed and backed by a soundtrack that sticks with you long after you've put down the joystick. "2014's Alter Ego, no relation to 1986's Alter Ego games, is a puzzle platformer with a mind-bending twist. You control a hero who has a phantom twin, or ghost if you prefer that description, that mirrors his every move. If you move left, he moves right. If you jump, he jumps. I think you know what I'm getting at. The story is abstract, focusing on duality of the character as he navigates a series of logic-based chambers. It's beautiful, minimalist and very clever. And if you like games that are familiar yet very unique, you're going to love it. The core mechanic is the swap. You can switch places with your ghost at any time, so figuring out how to beat each stage is about planning, positioning and timing. You have to use this skill to reach items that ghost can touch but you cannot, or to bypass deadly obstacles and enemies. It's a brilliant brain burner that feels totally unique on the platform and very modern in its design. It's one of those games we'd be fighting over in the 80s if anything like that existed back then. Meet Pepito. Pepito is a brave little sheep wandering through a surreal dreamscape after a questionable mix of mushrooms and booze sends its world spinning sideways. And yes, you've heard all of that right. The levels are fun, hazard-filled and full of quirky personality. The presentation is anything but simple. The minimalist backgrounds make the vibrant sprites pop even more, giving the whole game a surprisingly modern look for an 8-bit machine. It's the kind of visual style that sticks with you long after you've turned the C64 off. Woolly Jumper is a classic reach the exit platformer where you dodge spikes, hop over enemies and scoop up bonuses along the way. The controls are tight and responsive with polished jumping physics that make each level feel fair even if it gets tricky. It's an accessible feel-good game that works for players of all ages and a great showcase of the production quality Cytronic consistently brings to the C64 scene. There's a cheerful, bouncy energy to the whole experience that makes it hard not to smile while you play it. We had a game about Pepito, it's time to look at one about Zezito. Zezito in the Glistering Caves is a 2025 release that proves the C64 scene is still peaking. You play as Zezito, a little explorer who finds himself in the, I'm sure you guessed it by now, Glittering Caves. But there's a catch. The caves have been discolored by poisonous snails, and your job is to restore the floors to their original colors. You don't paint simply by walking. You must first collect a bucket and paint roller before you can recolor tiles. It's a whimsical and deliberately minimalist premise that still manages to feel charming. ZZ2 is a clever mix of platforming and tile painting puzzles, think cubert flattened into a 2D maze. You grab your bucket and roller, then dash across every floor tile to restore its color while dodging the strange creatures that lurk in the caves. The graphics are intentionally simple, reflecting the developer's choice to keep the entire project lightweight, but the design still feels tight and satisfying. There's a rhythmic, almost meditative flow to clearing each room that makes the challenge surprisingly addictive. In this 2018 release, we're clocking in for a shift in Rent a Cup. Well, not a cup, you play as a shopping mall security guard who definitely hasn't had enough coffee for the day because he missed something and a pesky thief is loose in the complex looting stores. So it's your job to track him down across a multi-level shopping paradise. It's simple, it's blue collar, and it's surprisingly high stakes. Mechanically, Rent a Cup is a fast-paced platformer/chaser. You're darting between lifts, hopping obstacles and constantly flicking your eyes to that minimap at the bottom of the screen. The 2012 competition build was already tight, but the reloaded edition from 2018 takes it much further, expanding the whole thing into a fuller game with multiple levels, extra hazards and even some light shooting mixed into the chase. On top of that, Reloaded brings in a killer soundtrack which gives the whole mall a proper pulse. No matter which version you fire up though, the pressure is always on. The robbery is quick, the mall is bigger than it looks, and the just one more go loop is what cements Rent a Cup as a modern classic. Our room takes us into the haunted castle in search for a long-lost treasure hidden somewhere deep within its crumbling halls. Legends in the game hint that the castle's former inhabitants died protecting the riches, leaving behind restless spirits and cryptic clues for anyone brave enough to enter. Originally coded in 1987 by John van der Out but left unreleased, it finally saw the light of day in 2014 with a full English translation. It's a spooky atmospheric trek through a fortress that really doesn't want you there. Aurum is a classic text parser-driven adventure with a graphical twist, so you'll be typing in funky commands like give wine to a rat, which is an actual puzzle solution in the game, to solve logic challenges. Personally, I'm allergic to parsers, but you may not mind them. What makes Aurum fun, however, is the historical context. I mean, playing a lost game from the 80s that only became accessible a few years back feels like a digital archaeology. The puzzles are fair, the atmosphere is thick, and the translation is spot on. Who says racing is only for cars? Well, not me, and definitely not the devs of our next game. In Crazy Dog Racing, we're heading to the tracks for some K9 competition. Created by the Tooth brothers, there isn't a deep lore here. I mean, why would there be in a racer? It's just pure unadulterated speed as you guide your pup to glory against other four-legged athletes. Or time, cause you can play it alone too. It's bizarre, it's cute, and it's 100% weird C64 charm. Crazy Dog Racing is a top-down, two-player-focused dog-themed kart racer. The fun that it offers comes mainly from the chaotic nature of the multiplayer races. Each dog drives a tiny go-kart and the handling is intentionally twitchy, making tight corners and overtakes feel wonderfully unpredictable. Tracks are compact, full of sharp bends and reward quick reflexes more than precision. It's less Gran Turismo and more wacky races with flair. If you have a friend over, this is the definitive 8-bit versus racer. In Monster Buster, adorable monsters have invaded and it's up to you to clear them out. Why? Because that's what the game's all about. It's a vibrant, colorful world that pushes the C64's palette hard for a 16KB game, and it looks more like a SNES game than a C64 title. It's a monster matching kind of affair and it's surprisingly playable. If you love Puzzle Bobble or Basta Move, this is hands down one of the best versions you'll find on the Commodore hardware. It even supports paddle controllers for pixel perfect aiming, which is a total game changer. Well, at least for those who have access to paddles. The physics are bouncy, the music is cheerful, and the 16KB cartridge limitation makes the technical polish even more impressive. It came first in the 2013 RGCD 16KB cartridge competition, which tells you everything about its quality. It's pure Zen gaming in cute as hell clothing. Time for a grand adventure in Wonderland. 4 devious dragons have conquered the land, and you're the only hero brave enough to find the crystals of the Altar of Winds. Why? Because. Don't ask silly questions, just do it and win the game. I mean, save the Wonderland. It's a quest of epic proportions crammed into a tiny 16KB cartridge. You'll explore dungeons, talk to NPCs, and slowly reclaim the kingdom screen by screen, monster by monster. Along the way, you'll gather keys, tools and weapons that slowly open up new regions of the overworld, giving the whole journey a surprisingly structured sense of progressions for such a tiny game. If you wanna know what Wonderland is, think Zelda meets Wonder Boy with a touch of C64 charm. It features a staggering 240 screens of exploration, which is unheard of for a 16KB game. You collect gold, buy better gear at shops, and navigate surprisingly helpful mini-map. The combat is simple but requires timing, and the sense of progression as you unlock new areas makes it one of the most complete feeling modern homebrews. Don't let the name fool you, Matchbuster isn't actually a simple match-free game. It's a strategic puzzle world heavily inspired by the physics of pushcut and the deliberate spatial logic of Sokoban. Sounds confusing? It does, but the game itself is pretty easy to grasp. You're essentially navigating a Boulder Dash style environment tasked with rearranging the universe's blocks. The game frames your role as less of a cosmic janitor and more of a lone operator clearing hazardous block formations deep within strange, shifting caverns. It's a high-concept puzzling on low-end hardware, and you're going to love it. The fun in Matchbuster is in the physics. You have to move and match blocks while dealing with gravity and momentum. It even has an attract mode like in those old arcades that self-runs and teaches you how to play it. It's mentally taxing in the best way possible. Watching the chain reactions go after a perfectly placed move is incredibly satisfying, and it's a masterclass in easy-to-learn, impossible-to-master gaming. In Maze of the Mummy, we're going back to Egypt. You're a treasure hunter exploring 15 massive pyramids composed out of 255 handcrafted levels. But you aren't alone. I mean, if you were, the game would be boring. So there are ancient mummies and deadly scorpions, and they're all hot on your trail. Each pyramid hides a single jewel at its summit, turning the whole journey into a long, escalating treasure hunt across the map. Your mission is to find 15 pieces of treasure and the keys to unlock your path to freedom. Maze of the Mummy is a move-based logic puzzle, closer in spirit to turn-based trap and escape puzzlers than to straight arcade action, heavily inspired by the cult classic Oh Mummy. Every time you move, the mummy moves, so you have to use the layout of the maze to trap enemies or slip past them. Because enemies follow strict movement rules, mastering their patterns becomes just as important as navigating the maze itself. It's tactical and tense, and with over 255 levels it offers incredible value. Also, the Egyptian-themed Sid tunes are some of the catchiest on the platform. The year is 3200 AD and you're the last survivor on the planet Mazion. Trapped in a series of electrified mazes, you're being hunted by the Automazians, the killer robots that destroyed your landing craft, and their leader, the grinning, indestructible Evil Otto. If you touch the walls, you're toast. If the robots catch you, you're toast. If you're hit in any way, you guessed it right, you're also toast. Basically everything wants you dead. As you push deeper into Mazion, the robots grow faster and more aggressive, turning every room into a desperate sprint for survival. Berserk Redux is a meticulously crafted remake of the arcade classic. Martin Piper did an incredible job adding features that the original C64 port lacked, like smooth scrolling between rooms and proper digitized speech, and it's finally the version C64 owners should have had back in the day. The Master Robot Room is a fantastic new addition for high-score hunters. It captures that frantic, run-for-your-life arcade energy perfectly. Berserk Redux is a retro gaming perfection polished for the modern era. Let's look at the brand new C64 arrival. Musketeer is a 2025 release from Cytronic that takes us to the 17th century France. Cardinal Richelieu has had his agent steal Queen Anne's diamond stats to blackmail her, and since 3 of your fellow musketeers have been captured, you are the last hope of the crown. The diamonds have been scattered in hidden locations across and beneath Paris, forcing you to track them down while rescuing your comrades. It's time for some one-for-all and all-for-one action with an accent on that earlier, since it's you doing all the work. Musketeer is a gorgeous action platformer with very strong inspirations from the Goonies, Bruce Lee and Zorro too. The character animations are some of the most fluid you've seen on the C64. You'll be sword-fighting guards, solving clever puzzles and exploring a world that feels alive. It even uses a card-based room selection system to help you navigate the streets of Paris. It's a stunning example of what developers can do in the 2020s if they're given free rein to work on their game. And it's finally the C64 game you've been waiting for. Or at least I have. Potato tomato. Either way, I'm sure you'll be happy to check it out. For decades, the C64 version of Prince of Persia was nothing but a myth. An idea that had a prototype and hadn't in the same time. And no one could tell what was true. Then in 2012, Andreas Varga aka Mr. Sid did the impossible. Well, improbable. And here we are. The plot is the same as in the original, so you have 60 minutes to escape the dungeon, defeat the Vizier Jafar and save the princess. But it's the way that it's told, through action and exploration, that is the real story. Prince of Persia on C64 isn't just a port. It's a near-perfect, one-to-one recreation of the Apple II original. The rotoscoped animation, where every frame of the movement was traced from real film, is still breathtakingly smooth. It requires an easy flash cartridge to handle the massive amount of data, but playing this on real hardware must feel like a miracle. The sword fighting is precise, the platforming is punishing but fair, and it is without a doubt one of the greatest technical achievements in the history of the Commodore 64. First up, we're heading to the stars with Escape from Earth Special Edition, the enhanced 2008 re-release of John Wells' original 1994 action puzzler. This time you're stepping into the metal boots of cyborg duo Voto and Veti, who have found themselves trapped on the hostile planet Earth. The place is swarming with deadly robotic flying objects, environmental hazards and all sorts of mechanical nastiness that wants you scrapped for parts. Armed with your wits, a trusty laser blaster and a brand new super jetpack, your mission is simple enough to explain but tough to survive. Fight your way through the planet's labyrinthine zones, deactivate generators, uncover new areas and ultimately escape before the local machinery turns you into spare components. Mechanically, Escape from Earth is a classic flip-screen game with a satisfying blend of blasting and puzzle solving. The special edition sharpens everything up, improved visuals, smoother presentation, tighter controls and a handful of new features that give the game more bite. The super jetpack lets you take to the skies for aerial battles and weapon power-ups add a welcome layer of progression as you blast your way through each screen. It's got that unmistakable just one more go pull, and thanks to responsive controls, every narrow escape and every perfectly timed jump feels earned. It's a polished, modernized slice of C64 homebrew that still proudly wears its retro roots. Next, we have a fascinating little puzzler called Wracked Off, released in 2007. The story here is delightfully minimal, pure arcade style. You know, a short prompt with a highlight of what's what and off you go on your merry way. You play as Barry the bear, who wakes up stranded on a strange planet made up of colorful garden-like zones. Each single screen level is filled with food items, and Barry needs to gather them all while avoiding the locals, who are quite fittingly completely racked off about your presence. There isn't a grand story here, it's just you against the environment. The goal is simply to clear the screen of all items and move to the next stage. But don't let Wracked Off's simple premise fool you. The game may look like a straightforward collect 'em up, but it has a sharp edge. The enemies don't follow complex logic or mirror inputs, they behave more like classic arcade pursuers, entering from the edges of your screen and homing toward your position, very much in the spirit of best arcade classics. So you're constantly reading the screen, planning your route and keeping the momentum so you don't get boxed in. It's pure movement, timing and spatial awareness kind of a game. It's a puzzle arcade hybrid in disguise, and once you learn how to manipulate your pathing and anticipate enemy approach angles, it becomes surprisingly satisfying. Moving on to 2006, we rejoin our favorite dwarven hero in Gold Quest III, The Forest of Doom. If you haven't played the earlier entries, he may not technically be your favorite dwarven hero yet, but he's certainly been busy. You once again take control of Sledgy, the stout little dwarf who has become the unofficial mascot of the Gold Quest series. As with previous games, there's no elaborate storyline or cinematic setup, this is a classic Sook-powered fantasy shooter, and the game simply drops you straight into the thick of it. The Forest of Doom subtitle refers to the theme of stages rather than a narrative quest, and your job is straightforward. Fight your way through waves of hostile creatures, survive each zone, and grab as much treasure as you can along the way. No cutscenes, no lore dumps, just pure arcade adventuring. Gold Quest III is a top-down Sook shoot-em-up where Sledgy roams the screen, blasting enemies, dodging projectiles and scooping up treasure for points. The controls are simple, the action is constant, and the whole thing has that unmistakable Richard Bailey's presentation. Bright colorful tiles, chunky fantasy sprites and a driving Siege soundtrack. There are no pits to jump over, no platforming physics and no traditional boss fights, but the game compensates with escalating enemy patterns and hazard-packed screens that act as its difficulty spikes. It feels like a lost budget era fantasy arcade game, fast, cheerful and unashamedly score-driven. Prepare to have your mind blown with our mystery game of the video. This is Pinball Dreams on the Commodore 64. I know, seems impossible. I mean, Night Mission seemed to be the peak of C64 flipper madness for years, and yet this gem somehow got unofficially ported to the 8-bit machine that could. Okay, it's a pinball game, so the plot is don't let the ball drop. But the real story here is the technical wizardry. For years, people said that C64 couldn't handle fast vertical scrolling and complex physics of the Amiga classic Pinball Dreams. This version was created for a Breakpoint 2006 competition and was unfortunately never finished into a full game. This 2006 release is technically an unfinished preview, but it's still surprisingly playable and already shows off 2 working tables. Even in this early state, the technical achievement is obvious. The vertical scrolling is smooth enough to be impressive on real hardware, and the ball physics, while not final, already demonstrate a convincing sense of speed and momentum for a work-in-progress build. Several elements from the Amiga original are still missing, including full scoring, light logic and complete table scripting, but what is here is remarkable proof of concept. It's a glimpse of what a full C64 conversion could have become, and even in demo form, it stands as one of the most ambitious technical experiments ever attempted on the machine. Grab your broadswords because next up is Battlefront, released in 2007. This one immediately gives off barbarian vibes, and that's no accident. It's a clear homage to the classic one-on-one arena fighter built for quick duels and even quicker bragging rights. There's no elaborate lore cinematic setup here, the title Battlefront is more thematic than narrative. What you actually get is a sequence of arena bouts where you face increasingly tough opponents, all wrapped in the presentation that earned the game a third place tie-in in the Game Overview Freestyle Jam. It's pure stripped-down gladiatorial combat on the C64. Battlefront is a straightforward one-on-one fighting game with simple, readable mechanics. You've got a small but functional movesets, strikes, blocks and positioning, without the rolls or advanced maneuvers you might expect from its inspiration. Combat isn't a button mashing frenzy, timing still matters, and spacing your attacks makes the difference between landing a hit and eating one. The goal is as old school as it gets: drain your opponent's health before they drain yours. The graphics are chunky in a charming way, the music comes courtesy of Beatmaster, and the whole package feels like a compact jumbled tribute to the arena fighters of the 80s. It's especially fun in two-player mode, where the simplicity becomes a feature rather than a limitation. Now we're bringing out the big guns. This is Metal Dust, released in 2005 by Protovision, and it's not just another shooter, it's the C64's most ambitious hardware-pushing experiment. Instead of a generic Save the Galaxy setup, the official story follows Commander Laser Ray, who must break through heavily fortified enemy sectors to reach a crucial jump position and escape to the new world. Along the way, you'll blast through 4 enormous stages filled with mechanical enemies, environmental hazards and screen-filling bosses. It's a classic sci-fi action, but delivered with a scale and intensity the stock C64 was never meant to handle. Here's the twist. Metal Dust was designed exclusively for the Super CPU accelerator, requiring a Super CPU with at least 4 MB of RAM. A standard C64 simply cannot run it. You need the real hardware or an emulator with Super CPU support. And once you see it in motion, you understand why. The game features 7 weapon systems, dual player support, parallax scrolling, giant and level bosses, and heavy sounding audio with real-time mixing, all things that would bring an unaccelerated C64 to its knees. Or its keys. Potato tomato. Metal Dust sits in that lineage of fast, aggressive horizontal shooters with huge sprites and dense enemy waves, and stands as one of the most technically impressive shooters ever released for the C64. A showcase of what a machine can do when you bolt a rocket engine onto it. From one sci-fi legend to another, in 2004, Smash Designs gave us an unofficial sequel titled Turrican 3 – Return of Darkness. Even though the series started on the Commodore 64, the third entry never officially released on the platform, and this thriller production was created to fill that gap, debuting at Evoke 2004. The game positions itself as a spiritual continuation of Turrican 2, offering a new campaign built in the same style. You are dropped into 5 large levels, each split into multiple sub-stages with mid-bosses and end-bosses packed with robotic enemies and environmental hazards. Your task, same as in all other games in this video, is really simple. Fight your way through the new worlds and survive, just like in the OG classics. Turrican 3 on the C64 is a run-and-gun shooter with classic multi-directional shooting and power-ups. The game does mix things up though. Level 3 shifts into a horizontal shoot-'em-up section, echoing the genre-blending moments of the earlier titles. The stage design is expansive for a C64 production, encouraging exploration for hidden power-ups and extra lives. Despite being an unofficial fan project, it feels remarkably authentic with ages code and graphics capturing the look and pacing of the originals that nails the Turrican atmosphere. Let's slow things down a bit with a test of skill and patience, something some of us desperately lack. This is Balloonacy 2 from 2005. You are Well, you're a balloon. Not you, I'm not saying you should go on a diet, although easing up on those donuts wouldn't hurt. But you're a balloon. Your mission is to navigate through a series of increasingly treacherous rooms to find the exit. It sounds simple, but when you're made of thin rubber and the world is filled with spikes, moving hazards and tight corridors, it becomes a survival horror story for inflatable objects and popping nightmares. Yeah, the pun is terrible, but I just couldn't help myself. This is a sequel to original Balloon C, which we've not spoke about yet on this channel, and it ramps up the difficulty and creativity. It's not a physics-based game, instead it's a precision arcade maze dodger where you must control your movement carefully using the joystick. You can't just rush, you have to float, drift and dodge with precision. One touch of a sharp object and pop, you're gone, like a fart in a silent library. There and not there at the same time. It's incredibly tense, like that book readers encircled fart, but also rewarding when you finally slip past the tricky section. The graphics are clean and colorful, allowing you to focus purely on the challenge, with new obstacles such as lock and key mechanics adding extra spice to the sequel. Going back to 2003, we have a fun little arcade title called Renovator. It's a pure arcade fare. Avoid anything that moves and get out alive. It sounds simple, but the moment the screen fills with enemies, the pressure ramps up fast. Renovator is a top-down Sook action game with a clever twist. Instead of jumping between floors, you navigate each room freely while dodging enemies that behave exactly like classic Sook foes. Constant, patterned and relentless. The controls are responsive, which is essential when something hostile is drifting your way. It captures that early 80s arcade energy. Simple rules, rising tension and a satisfying loop even though it arrived 2 decades later. It's charming, frantic and a great example of how the homebrew scene kept experimenting with new spins on the familiar formulas. Now let's spin, quite literally too, into 2004 with 360 ARM, a slick little Sook shooter created by Sean Pearson and coded with help of 2 industry legends Chris Yates and Richard Bayliss. This one was even featured in a C64 magazine the following year, which tells you it made a splash in the scene. You pilot a heavily armed craft dropped into hostile territory, and your job is to survive wave after wave of incoming enemies. No lore, no briefing, no dramatic cutscenes, just you, your ship, and a whole lot of things trying to erase you from existence. It's the kind of a game that doesn't need a story, because the action is the story. .360 is a top-down shooter with one standout twist. Your ship can rotate freely, letting you fire in any direction while navigating tight enemy patterns. It's fast, clean and surprisingly stylish thanks to its crisp sprite work and pumping soundtrack. The controls are simple, move, rotate, shoot, but the enemy waves come in thick and the screen can get busy fast. It feels like a modernized take on early 80s arcade shooters, but filtered through that unmistakable Sook charm. For a public domain release, it's polished, punchy and a great example of how creative people kept pushing the C64 long after its commercial era ended. Don your shiny armor for good night. This one is a fantastic arcade action title that screams classic from the moment you boot it up. The story is a tale as old as time, the great green dragon Embers has kidnapped the princess and the king is properly pissed about it. He sent you, Sir Darren of Durham, a hero fueled entirely by tea, crumpets and a drive for good, to go get her back. It's simple, it's heroic and it involves a lot of running, so you know, your typical 8-bit left-to-right survival. Goodnight is a love letter to the classic Hunchback. You aren't exploring a sprawling world hero backtracking, you're surviving a gauntlet. Your goal is to guide Sir Darren across 40 single-screen levels, dodging arrows, fireballs, dragons, traps and guards who really don't want you to pass. The controls are tight, which is good, because this game is hella tough. You'll need pixel-perfect timing to jump gaps and swing on ropes, and that's not something that all of us have in 2026. It's that, just one more Go style of frustration that eventually turns into pure addiction. Goodnight is a fantastic pick-up-and-play title for anyone who misses the golden age of high-score chasing. Magic 2 is a cheerful side-scrolling platformer starring Tom the adventurous Tomcat. After saving the world in the first game, Tom settles in a cozy life with his wizard mentor, until his own accidental spell mishap sends the Dream Islands into chaos. Suddenly the once peaceful land is full of trouble, and Tom must hop back into the hero mode to fix the mess he unknowingly conjured. The story feels like a whimsical fairy tale where even disasters have charm, giving the whole adventure a warm storybook glow. Magic 2 plays like a classic jump and run with smooth scrolling, colorful stages and plenty of hazards to keep Tom on his toes. You guide him through lively levels, timing jumps, dodging traps and using his magical tricks to reach new areas. The controls are snappy, the visuals surprisingly polished for the Commodore 64, and the SID soundtrack keeps everything bouncing along. It's fun because it blends tight platforming with bright, friendly atmosphere that makes every level feel like a tiny celebration of retro charm. Golf Dash Extended is rather a new C64 release from Mega Style, as it dropped in 2025. Now, usually, golf games are about relaxing on the green, taking your time, nature and the views, but not this one. This one is about stress and letting you know how much you suck at it. There isn't a deep narrative here. No dragons, monsters, evil overlords or magical mishaps, just you, a ball and a series of increasingly sadistic mini-golf courses. However, there is a snarky monkey who reacts to your performance, offering constructive feedback that mostly exists to mock your failures. Thanks, Monkey Judge. Golf Dash is actually a puzzle game disguised as a sport. You view the course from the top-down perspective and your goal is to dash your ball into the hole. The catch? The ball doesn't stop rolling until it hits the wall or an obstacle. This means you have to plan your route like a game of billiards played on a minefield. This extended version adds 30 new levels, new graphics, new music, password saves and a variety of upgraded obstacles to ruin your day. It's incredibly cerebral as you have to visualize the geometry of the level before you take your shot. If you like your logic puzzles with a side of physics, this is a hole-in-one. And yeah, I'm low-key proud of that pun. Karen and the Tangled Tentacles, not that kind of Karen, released in 2015 by Prior Art, and it's a stunning point-and-click adventure that plays homage to LucasArts classics like Maniac Mansion or Day of the Tentacle. You play as Karen, a lab assistant working at an institute dealing with all things chemical, who stumbles upon a chaotic mystery involving, you guessed it right, tentacles. The plot is filled with humor, mystery and that specific brand of 80s sci-fi cheesiness that we all adore. Karen herself is a great protagonist, reacting to the weirdness around her with plenty of sass. The mechanics of Karen are pure point-and-click joy, but streamlined for the Commodore 64 joystick. You move a cursor to interact with hotspots, pick up items and combine them to solve puzzles. So your typical LucasArts fare. What's impressive, however, is the engine. It handles multitasking beautifully, meaning that the background animations and character movements feel incredibly fluid and there's no jerkiness of any kind when interacting with it. The puzzles follow that classic adventure logic, so use thing A on thing B to open thing C, and then watch what happens to D. There's probably something also involving E and F, but I got too confused with my own logic here to explain it, so you best ignore it. The game is short but polished, making it a perfect narrative experience that doesn't overstay its welcome. Let's take a trip back to 2011 with Chunk's Adventure. This one channels the spirit of old-school single-screen adventures. You are, to surprise to absolutely no one, Chang, an explorer poking around a dangerous temple packed with traps, critters and rooms that really don't want you in them. Your mission is to locate 4 sacred objects scattered around the map and hold them back to the treasure room to unlock the final surprise. Or as myself and my good, totally not imaginary friend Guybrush would like to call it, the big whoop. It's a simple setup, but it sets the stage for a tense little dungeon crawl where every screen feels like a self-contained challenge box waiting to ruin your day. You move from room to room, dodging enemies, hopping over hazards and navigating layouts where timing matters more than bravado. Perspective isn't your enemy here, precision is. And of course a wobbly joystick is always lurking as the real final boss. The game wears its inspiration from Willow Pattern Adventure proudly on its sleeve, borrowing that classic collect items while surviving a gauntlet of rooms structure. It's a methodical, slow-paced experience where rushing usually ends with your face down in a spike pit. Observe your patterns, plan your moves and execute cleanly. If you crave that tight old-school 2D challenge, Chunk is absolutely your guy. Time to get dark and gritty with Demons of Dex Aino's quest, released in 2016 by Hokuto Force. Poor Aino. He's a young adventurer who just wanted a nice quiet life, but instead, he's been thrown into the dungeon of Dex to fight Hellspawn with nothing but a rope and a rusty knife. Which given the circumstances is not that bad, as he could have ended up there naked and barehanded. The plot is a classic zero to hero dungeon crawl. You're fighting your way through 20 levels packed with monsters, traps and loot as you try to survive long enough to escape. It's moody, it's atmospheric, and Aino will really need a vacation when/if he survives. The levels are procedurally generated each run, meaning the layout changes every time you play. You move on a grid, revealing the map as you go, collecting potions, gems and better equipment and having the best monster bashing time of your life. Speaking of combat, it's naturally turn-based but feels surprisingly fast because you have to bump into enemies to attack. What makes this version special is how accessible it is compared to old-school ASCII RPGs. It has clean tile-based graphics, distinct enemy sprites and a great minimap. It manages to cram a deep RPG system into the C64 without needing a keyboard overlay to play it. Strategy is key here. Manage your health responsibly or die trying. Cursed Tomb is a collect-em-up puzzle adventure that drops you into ancient tombs full of treasure and supernatural mischief. Also adventures, they're full of adventures too. You play an intrepid explorer wandering through eerie chambers where ghosts glide, walls shift and traps wait with suspicious enthusiasm to trap you inside forever. Each tomb is a compact labyrinth that grows tricky and more mysterious the deeper you go. The whole thing feels like a playful pulp adventure romp, just with a few more curses than your average archaeology trip. I mean, Indiana Jones would have felt right at home in them. Cursed Tomb features 40 handcrafted levels where you must grab every jewel before slipping out through the exit. Movement is grid-based, meaning your explorer zooms in straight lines until bumping into something, turning each room into a clever little logic puzzle. New hazards, teleports, ghosts, moving walls and rolling boulders keep you guessing and encourage experimentation. With its instant restart, crisp presentation and satisfying aha moments, Cursed Tomb delivers that irresistible blend of brain-teasing challenge and retro adventure charm. It even includes a classic password system, but progression remains pleasantly modern in feel. Let's dust off our fedoras for John Gunn Gold Edition from 2009. If the name didn't trip you off, this is heavily inspired by Indiana Jones and has some strong Spelunky vibes. You play as archaeologist Joseph J. Gunn, who discovers a lost pyramid in the Egyptian desert, the Tomb of the Crocodile King. What an epic name! As Joe descends deeper, he uncovers clues hinting that Crocodile King's reign ended in betrayal, giving the whole expedition a creeping sense of ancient injustice waiting to be unearthed. The storytelling here is fantastic, with simple but effective cutscenes and a real sense of mystery. You aren't just looting treasures, you're uncovering a history that was erased from the books. It captures that pulp adventure vibe perfectly, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Gun is a puzzle platformer of the highest tier. You explore the pyramid room by room, but unlike standard platformers, you have an inventory. You need to find items like scarabs, knives and scrolls and figure out where to use them, adding not only to the charm and atmosphere, but also fun. The Gold Edition adds extra polish, refined puzzles, improved graphics and various bug fixes, making an already gleaming game shine even brighter. The movement is fluid and the puzzles are logical but challenging. You'll be deciphering hieroglyphs and dodging traps that would make Dr. Jones proud. It is widely considered one of the best C64 games of the modern era, and for a good reason. It's time for something completely different. Nanako in classic Japanese Monster Castle. The title basically tells you the whole plot. You play as Nanako, a little girl who has to rescue her sister from a tower filled with classic Japanese yokai-inspired creatures. The vibe is very cute and anime-inspired, a stark contrast to the grim dungeons we usually see on the C64. Nanako is surprisingly lighthearted, colorful and charmingly weird. Don't let the cute graphics fool you, because Nanako is a true brain melter. It's a puzzle platformer where Nanako can only jump as high as her own height, so to reach higher platforms you have to find, pick up and stack crates. It sounds simple, but the level design is devilish and will get your noggin going. You have to build your own staircases while dodging enemies that move in set patterns. One wrong box placement and you may have to restart the level, so it's best to approach it with patience and planning rather than rushing to endgame. The C64 version keeps the original mechanics intact, including the strict crate tracking logic and single-screen puzzle structure. Random Ancient Stones, yes, that is random with 2 O's, released in July 2025 by Picaro Games. This game takes us to 8 sacred temples guarded by seemingly invincible color-coded sentinels. The lore here is actually quite deep. These sentinels protect the secret of life, but they have a weakness, their own color. You play an adventurer who has figured this out and is out to absorb their spirits. Each temple represents a different elemental theme, giving the game a surprising amount of world building for an arcade title. It's a high-concept sci-fi fantasy wrapped in an arcade package, and one of the most random feeling games you've seen all day today. The gameplay hook in Randoon is all about color coordination. Each temple has 3 challenge screens and you have to capture the sentinels in specific order based on their color. Your player character changes color to indicate which enemy you need to hit next. If you touch the wrong color, you lose a life. So, well, don't. This fun original mechanic turns the traditional platforming into a reflex test where you have to constantly check your own status against the enemies on the screen. It's fast, frantic and breaks the mold of your standard jump on the head platformer. Version 2.0 even adds a brutal full random mode where the required colors change unpredictably. A truly fresh idea for 2025. First up, we're channeling our inner James Bond with Spy Combat, a 2025 Commodore 64 release coded by Jonathan Wells and entered into the TND Sook Compo 2025. The story sticks to a classic espionage pulp. You play as Agent Shanky, the only operative capable of stopping the rogue spy Mr. X, who has stolen the defense program plans of the Shadow Organization. If these documents fall into the wrong hands, the world is in serious trouble. Your mission is straightforward enough. Infiltrate enemy territory, recover the stolen plans and shut down Mr. X's operation for good. And yes, have some fun while you're at it. Spy Combat is a side-scrolling shooter. You're moving horizontally through enemy bases, blasting hostile agents, and navigating a steady stream of action delivered by soon-to-be bodies you make sure to put down. The game benefits from Sook's Redux-style enhancements, giving it smoother movement and faster feel than stock Sook titles. Along the way, you'll be destroying crates for bonus items, racking up points and extra lives as you push deeper into Mr. X's defenses, spreading death and destruction all around. It's simple, arcade-leaning, shoot anything that looks suspicious fun, with a light dash of spy movie flair. Next, we're blasting off with Star Skimmer, the game that took home the gold at 2025 Sook competition. You are Cole Skimmer, a Federation pilot dispatched after a series of attacks in Sector X9 where research vessels have been ambushed by an unknown force. The Nitwap Empire is hatching a nefarious plot, and your task is to investigate the attacks, rescue surviving astronauts and destroy hostile installations, preferably but not necessarily in that order. Especially that it's a shooter, so in reality, you're just pushing upwards clearing the screen. It's the usual save whoever's left and don't die doing it kind of assignment. Star Skimmer is a vertical scrolling sack shooter, and yes, it's as polished as 2025 C64 release can get. Enemies aggressively track and engage you, giving the action a sharper edge than typical Sook fare and keeping it fast and fun. Enhanced visuals, including smooth vertical scrolling which may not technically be parallax but just layered background, create a strong sense of depth and add overall quality to the presentation. Diving low to hit ground targets while dodging aerial threats keeps the tension high, and the whole package stands as a great example of what modern Sook coding tricks can squeeze out of a 40-year-old hardware. Need something a little more colorful? Check out Tantu Man, released by Delta Machine. The plot is delightfully relatable. Our hero, the titular Tantu Man, just wants to go on vacation. But before he can sip pina coladas and drift into bliss, he has to paint every inch of a sprawling maze. Why? I don't know, but it seems that he does. It's inspired by the Android title Tomb of Mask Color, proving that modern mechanics can feel right at home on the C64. I mean, we knew that after Spelunky, but that's just another confirmation of the fact. Tantu Man is an arcade maze game where you don't just move. You slide in straight lines until you hit the wall, exactly like its mobile inspiration. You have to paint the entire maze while avoiding enemies and racing a countdown timer. The charm comes from that puzzle action blend. It starts easy, but soon you're plotting routes with surgical precision while everything on the screen tries to ruin your day. It's fast, frantic and dangerously addictive, the sweet spot where the best C64 arcade-style games tend to live. I think it's good to mix things up, so now it's time for something darker. Terminal Walker drops us in the year 2029, where a rogue AI has enslaved humanity using a video game as a digital drug. You play as a retro game freak, explicitly described as one of the few immune to the AI's influence. Your mission is to descend through a 16-level underground data center, blow up its embedded nuclear reactor and pull the plug on the machine overload once and for all. So yeah, the whole concept really is a gamer saving the world from bad gaming. Cool stuff. Terminal Walker is an action-oriented tactical survival game with 3D-style movement and a striking technical showpiece for the C64. The enemy robots are repurposed maintenance and cleaning units with slow speed, limited sensors and short weapon range, which means you're outmaneuvering them more than engaging in firefights, especially early on. You're navigating tight corridors, hunting for upgrades and using terminals and elevators to progress deeper into the complex, all while trying to overheat the reactor without getting cornered. It's moody, atmospheric and tough as nails. Exactly like your ex. Switching gears to strategy, we have The Tribe, a survival management game set in prehistoric times and honestly, one of the most interesting ideas I've seen on the C64 in a while. Winter is coming early and your current hunting grounds are freezing over. You are the chosen leader of your people, guiding them across a hostile changing landscape in search for new hunting grounds. It's a story of desperate survival against the elements and every step forward feels earned. Think of The Tribe as the Oregon Trail but with mammoths, frostbite and a world that genuinely wants you dead. You're managing food supplies, making life or death calls during random events and trying to keep as many of your people alive as possible. The gameplay is turn-based and decision-driven, so you can take your time. But that also means that every mistake is entirely on you. Do you risk hunting dangerous game for a big payoff, or play it safe and watch your supplies dwindle? Every choice carries weight, giving the game a surprising emotional punch for an 8-bit survival experience. Feel the need for speed? You do? Then go play it, cause this is Commodore 64. And all I've got for you today is TT64 by AJ Layden. It's an arcade motorbike racer the C64 has been waiting for. A clean, reflex-driven Outrun-style ride, not some deep narrative epic. The premise is pure arcade simplicity. You're on a high-speed motorcycle trying to escape the city and reach one of 5 different goals before time runs out. There's no heavy plot here, just you, the bike and the open road. I should really add wind in your hair, that would be poetic. TT64 is a technical beast. It uses a scaling effect similar to that in Super Hang-On or Outrun. The hook is the branching gameplay. At each checkpoint you physically steer left or right to choose your route, leading to different environments and endings. It's not a new mechanic by any stretch of imagination, but it absolutely boosts replayability. The sensation of speed is wild, and weaving through traffic at high velocity, affected by your chosen difficulty level, feels shockingly smooth for a C64 game. If you love isometric games, you need to see Tarian's Tower. You play as Tarian, a highguard and official keeper of all things egg-shaped on a noble quest to recover the Queen Mom's stolen eggs. The eggs have been scattered across a perilous tower scrolling with traps, hazards and nasties. It's a whimsical fantasy setup that frames the action perfectly. Tarian's Tower is a spiritual successor to classics like Crystal Castles. You're navigating 50 isometric tower screens, collecting eggs and smashing enemies with your wham hammer. The controls are tight and responsive, which is rare for isometric games, and the graphics are crisp, colorful and beautifully crafted. The fun comes from the risk-reward dance of grabbing the last egg while enemies swarm the walkways. It's old-school arcade purity built on 3 simple concepts: collect, survive, advance. Meet Umi, the hero of Umi Bombs. The plot is simple but also pretty wild. The Emperor of Darkness has threatened to blow up the entire city unless an $1 million ransom is paid, and he's planted bombs all over its buildings. Umi, equipped with jetpack, is the only one who can collect and defuse bombs using the explosive container placed on each rooftop. It's a high-stakes bomb disposal mission wrapped in cute pixel art with stakes far higher than any one jet-powered hero should reasonably handle. The gameplay is frantic single-screen action. You have 60 seconds per level, and since you can only carry 1 bomb at a time, efficiency is everything. You swoop down, grab a bomb, jet upward to dump it into the container, and repeat, while dodging UFOs, planes, balloons and other hazards. The game features 12 loopable levels and a final boss, which gives it more structure than it first appears. It really feels like a rhythm game disguised as an arcade collect-em-up, since once you hit that flow state of swooping, dodging and dumping bombs, it becomes incredibly satisfying. Believe it or not, but Umi is back for a second adventure in Umi colors. This time aliens from the Nebula of Darkness are attacking Umi City, which is both nasty and frankly a bit of a dick move. These aliens aren't just any random invaders though, they're actually color-coded and the only way to defeat them is to match their color frequency. A simple concept maybe, but the gameplay is so fun. Umi colors tests your brain and reflexes at the same time. You change Umi's color by holding the fire button and pressing a direction on the joystick, and you can only destroy an alien if you match its color. It sounds basic, but when the screen fills with 4 different alien types and the 60-second timer ticks down relentlessly, your brain starts to melt in the best possible way. It's a unique twist on arcade classics and it's surprisingly addictive. And finally, we have a title that just dropped in early 2026 and is one of the latest C64 games, Amiran and the Alien Beer Suckers. The title's pretty cool too. The plot is naturally one of the most important on this entire list. I'm sure you'll agree when you hear it. A party is happening at Dev Lab, drinks, snacks, music, the whole shebang, but the beer delivery left outside gets ambushed when hostile aliens show up, having apparently detected the universal sign for free beer. Their mission? Steal Dev Lab's precious supply before the first grill is even fired up. You play as Amiran, clearly drunk dude armed with a crossbow, defending the booze from thirsty extraterrestrials. Amiran is a love letter to arcade classic Puyan with an extra wing toward pigs from space. You move vertically on the right side of the screen, shooting arrows at aliens floating down on balloons. The gameplay is pretty simple. Pop the balloon, drop the alien, save the beer. The game includes a full front end with intro, menu and high score table plus loading music and multiple in-game tracks, giving it a surprisingly polished presentation. Underneath all that, it's still the same classic timeless arcade loop. It's hilarious, it's polished, and it's the perfect party game to end today's list. First up is Bubble Bobble Lost Cave from Dave's Retro Forge, a 2026 Commodore 64 adaptation of the Lost Cave arcade-derived level set rebuilt on the modern Bubble Bobble remastered engine. It brings 100 levels originally designed by Taito for various console versions, carefully adapted and re-implemented on the C64 with arcade-accurate physics and presentation. In this version, Bob and Bob descend into a forgotten branch of the Cave of Monsters. As they push deeper into the side reality of the cave, the duo uncover a patchwork of challenges stitched together from long-scattered homeport exclusives, giving the adventure a strangely familiar but freshly unpredictable rhythm. The new engine Lost Cave runs on wipes up the flicker and slowdown of the old port, and the level design leans into tricky traps, hidden triggers and clever enemy choreography. It feels like discovering a Bubble Bobble sequel the C64 never got until now. So if you loved the original game, you're gonna have a fantastic time with this one. Rise of Babylon puts you on the throne after the King of Babylon's sudden death. Your father dreamed of building the greatest city in Mesopotamia, and now you're the one who must turn the modest settlement into a thriving ancient capital. It's a generational story. Your father conquered, but you must civilize, and every decree becomes a line in the chronicle of your reign that you'll write with your choices. The real challenge, though, lies in guiding your people toward prosperity within the tight limits of the land, time and resources, making population growth the true measure of your legacy. As the seasons pass and the city expands, you uncover how each choice, wise or reckless, shaped the fate of Babylon long after your rule ends. In Rise of Babylon, you'll manage population, food, construction and diplomacy while responding to shifting conditions and the occasional crisis from neighboring regions. The whole experience is built around joystick-driven decision-making on real C64 hardware, giving it a feel of a modern evolution of a classic Hammurabi-style city management rather than a sprawling 4X empire builder. It's focused, atmospheric and surprisingly replayable, the kind of a game where a single smart decree can save a generation and a single misstep can echo through the rest of your reign. RoboGems is a fast, competitive two-player single-screen platformer where you race to collect more gems than your opponent before the timer runs out. There is no official lore, but the vibe is unmistakable. Two mining bots whose competitive subroutines have gone haywire, scrambling through neon-lit caverns for upgrades, or to avoid being scrapped. Who can tell? The point is, whomever collects more gems wins, at life, at being a robot, or just the game. Every arena drops items from above, gems to boost your score, bombs to knock it down, and wings that grant a brief burst of flight, giving the whole thing a frantic arcade machine personality. The main gameplay focuses on dashing, jumping, dodging traps and snatching gems, all while sabotaging your opponent's routes. Matches are joystick only and built for two simultaneous players, and power-ups and hazards keep every round unpredictable. It's pure couch multiplayer chaos and you're going to love it. Slotshot is built using the developer's own Pico language, a C64 Python-like programming language. It takes place on a deep space colony K7 in 2084. A crystalline infection is spreading through the station, and you're the last operator at the defense console, firing colored Vaccine blocks through shifting maintenance slots to hold back the glittering alien growth. As the outbreak accelerates, the colony's system begins to malfunction, forcing you to adapt your firing patterns as the machinery becomes increasingly unpredictable. Slotshot is a puzzle shooter hybrid with 3 distinct bullet types, 10 levels of rising speed, and a focus on threading shots through moving ups to complete and clear columns. It supports both PAL and NTSC machines and uses joystick controls with optional keyboard input, and timing in this one is everything. Threading a shot through a tiny moving gap to clear a whole column of blocks is incredibly satisfying, especially when you're about to lose and a precise shot is all that stands between you and a failure. Vault of Seraphim continues the saga from the Catacombs of Cherubim. You're a wizard exploring the Black Mountains, first plundering the abandoned vaults of the Cherubim and then descending deeper in search of the legendary treasure of the Seraphim. The Cherubim are described as an ancient race of guardians who vanished thousands of years ago, leaving behind artifacts, traps and structures buried deep within the mountain. As you go, the caves shift from early stone to something almost divine, as if the Seraphim left behind the trial rather than the treasure. Your descent eventually leads into 8 sprawling cave systems, each more treacherous than the last, hinting that Seraphim's treasure may be a test of worth rather than simple riches. Sounds interesting? Good, because it's a pretty sweet game too. Vault of Seraphim is a jump-and-run cave crawler with 4 entirely new caves, improved movement and light Metroidvania progression. It even includes the original Catacombs of Cherubim caves with all that they entailed, but now enhanced by the new physics. The game is single-player, joystick-controlled and designed as a direct continuation rather than a standalone reboot. Thomas the Tank Engine 2 is a lost title, developed by Clockwise around 1990-1992, but never released until Games That Weren't recovered it in December 2025. They're a fantastic website by the way, and you should check them out. Based on a classic story where Thomas races Bertie the Bus, it feels like opening a time capsule. A fully formed early 90s licensed game preserved in amber and finally allowed to leave the station after an unresolved dispute with the publisher kept it shelved for decades. The prototype even includes small touches like character-specific animations and environmental details that show how close it came to a commercial release. A mind-blowing 30 plus years later, it's finally out in the wild. You guide Thomas through side-scrolling obstacle courses with cameos from familiar Sodor faces, all while racing Bertie to the finish line. It's polished, charming, and a fascinating piece of rescued C64 history. The full story is on Games That Were in 64, where the recovery notes and developer commentary are archived. This unofficial 2025 C64 conversion of the VIC-20 Classic Super Amok brings Berserk-style robot maze action to the C64. The original 1983 game by Roger Merritt was a VIC-20 Berserk clone, and the devs rebuilt it from scratch using software-generated character-based sprites. It plays like you've been dropped into a sadistic AI's testing facility, as every room is a new experiment and every second a reminder that stopping means deletion. According to the developer, the player is essentially a lone human test subject navigating an endless series of robot-patrolled chambers, each one procedurally arranged to push the limits of soft sprite engine. The deeper you go, the more the facility feels like it's studying you as much you're trying to escape it. In Super Amok, you blast robots, avoid electrified walls, and escape each room before the deadly bouncing enforcer arrives. It's a single-player joystick-controlled shooter, fast, mean, and endlessly replayable, and you should definitely check it out. Blazon's 2025 port of Omami finally brings the Amstrad Classic to the C64. You're an explorer mapping tombs by tracing the perimeter of rectangular rooms, which is best described as battle between curiosity and consequence, where every treasure uncovered feels like a victory and every mummy feels like history waking up angry and ready to whoop your ass. Each tomb is sealed until you fully outline its chambers, turning every step into a gamble between uncovering riches or accidentally releasing something that should have stayed buried. You outline rooms to reveal treasure, keys or mummies, all while avoiding the tomb's guardians. It's faithful to the original, polished and fast. Blazon's version also includes smooth scrolling, improved controls and clean visual style that respects the CPC look while feeling distinctly C64. And most importantly and above all, it's fun. Penguin Migrants is a charming puzzle platformer where you guide a colony of penguins across icy hazards using environmental manipulation. It's a quiet tale of migration. A tiny colony braves a frozen world where each hot chick adds both joy and responsibility to the journey. As the trek unfolds, the group's slow, deliberate progress turns each new screen into a small story about cooperation and survival. You manipulate the environment to guide the penguins, hatch eggs by surrounding them with free penguins, and position everyone on their target tiles to finish each level. With 40 levels, WSAD keyboard-only controls, a hella fun gameplay loop and cool design, Penguin Migrants is cute and surprisingly demanding. Developed and self-published by Sunny Joe the Guy, it's a polished C64 homebrew port of the creator's earlier handheld version. Developed by Commodore Plus and released as a Zap64 micro-action cover game, Ranma Half 1-2, or however I should interpret the title, adapts Rumiko Takahashi's iconic manga. Ranma must complete 4 trials to prove his devotion to Akane, while rivals constantly try to curse him. The game's structure is built around short action exploration segments rather than a direct retelling of any single manga arc, but it still channels the spirit of the series. It's a perfect snapshot of the manga's chaotic blend of martial arts, romance and magical mishaps, and it captures the charm of the original material as well as it's possible on the C64. There's one thing Ranma differs from the original. Instead of cold water triggering the transformation, enemies hitting you causes Ranma to shift into his female form and he must return to the starting point to revert. This is a deliberate mechanical simplification noted by the developers and reviewers, not an oversight, and it's made to include the iconic mechanic into a game that really didn't need one. It mixes exploration with quick minigames and colorful anime-style graphics, and it's a fun title to fire up and complete over a weekend. And that's Season 2 wrap. And if this is where modern C64 devs are heading, the future of retro is looking ridiculously bright. Thanks a lot for watching, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.